Hopefully we've all gotten our coffee and we're pretty energized. So what we have for you, as I mentioned earlier, are 3 separate verticals in healthcare, and in full disclosure, they're also HealthX's portfolio companies. We have one, Medable, which was actually recently announced another partnership with Apple. Last Friday, they were in the news after the Worldwide Developer Conference for another product they've developed. And I'll let Mark, unfortunately Michelle couldn't be here today. She's actually out in Europe meeting with a lot of these major pharmaceutical companies. So we've got their Chief Revenue Officer, Mark Morris, who's also a former entrepreneur. He sold his last company and exited. It was a CRM for healthcare, actually, and they were able to exit it, and now he's back in it. So I'd like to invite Mark Morris up to the board.
I'm first.
Up to the stage, wow. And then the next 2 startups we have are Sanem, who's the Chief Experience Officer for Narrative DX, will be coming up here as well, and then Q Harrison will close this out for us, and he's the Chief Marketing Officer of Redox. And what we've done is I thought it'd be best to have companies in a few different stages. So Medable is actively or starting to raise their Series A, and they've started to grow rapidly over the past year. And I'll let Mark take it from here.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Morris. As Taha mentioned, I'm a Chief Revenue Officer for Medable. I know many of you were very excited to come and hear from Michelle Longmire, but unfortunately, she's stuck in Europe, which means you're stuck with me. So hopefully that'll be okay. If you ever get a chance to meet Michelle, she is an amazing healthcare innovator, full of energy and vision and passion for transforming the healthcare industry. I come more from the IT side. So do we have any IT people in the room? Yeah, maybe not. Okay, crickets, of course. Hey, there we go. Nice, I like it. So I'm hoping to give you a little bit of my perspective from the IT side on what we do at Medable and how we're transforming the way healthcare is delivered with mobile applications. My background, I've actually spent about 20 years of my career, and the majority of my career might be characterized as dealing with helping people engage with their customers and engage with their patients. I like to say that we were doing engagement before it became popular. And a lot of our solutions that we've provided have touched millions of patients throughout the United States. So I'm very proud of that. In a lot of ways with Medable, with the mobile technology solutions, is really, I kind of consider it an engagement company. We know how to engage people. And so I'm very excited about that and very proud to be part of it. Okay, next slide. Oh, I changed the slides, don't I? Sorry. We've got this fancy device here. Looks pretty technical. There we go. Okay, so obviously we're in a digital age where mobile technology has a huge opportunity to transform healthcare. Medical researchers, how many research folks do we have in here? Do we have many researchers, clinical trials people, that sort of thing? Obviously, researchers want to use mobile and leverage mobile to study disease. And physicians want to use mobile to care for their patients. But unfortunately, as Taha mentioned earlier, it's not being adopted. Out of the 200,000 studies and over the 900 million medical touch points, only 1% or less of those interactions use mobile. So why has this happened? Well, it's obvious, right? Developing on mobile and providing mobile solutions have high costs. And I like to say, not only is it high costs, but it takes a lot of specialty, a lot of specialists to make, kind of turn these solutions into reality. There's also long development times. So even if you do have the resources, it takes time and often requires competencies that a lot of healthcare organizations may not possess. Mobile brings up lots of security challenges. And of course, you have the whole issue of all this data being collected on the mobile devices needs to end up in the EHR. So of course, Medable comes in to solve these problems. We solve it by making it more affordable. We provide our technology as a software as a service. A lot of our solutions require no or very little development time, so we eliminate that barrier. Our technology is built on the latest security and compliance frameworks. And of course, our technology is modern and open, which basically means we can integrate with anything. And thanks to our most recent partnership with Redox, getting that data into the EHR, into the medical record, is that much easier. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, Medable has 3 primary product lines. The first product is called Axon. And Axon is a technology that allows researchers to connect with their study participants through mobile devices. It's loosely based on something called ResearchKit, which is an Apple technology for these kinds of applications. But of course, with Axon and Medable, you get much more than just ResearchKit. Then we have Synapse, and Taha just mentioned our recent partnership with Apple. In fact, if you look at the WWDC presentations from last week, you'll see Medable was in their live demonstration that they showed for CareKit. But Synapse is a technology that allows physicians and doctors to connect with their patients with care applications. And then finally, we have our fundamental platform, which is called Cortex. And Cortex really spans everything that we do at Medable. And Cortex allows anybody to build any kind of health app that needs security and compliance kind of grade technology for medical applications. And also we have analytics, including artificial intelligence, for gaining insights and optimizing your care. So to quickly kind of show how this looks in the real world, I thought I don't have time for a demo, but I'll show you some shots. So first we'll go into Axon. And again, Axon is for researchers who are trying to connect and engage their study participants. And so here in this slide, you might imagine you have a researcher on the left-hand side, and you might have your study participant with a phone and maybe a health device on the right-hand side. And the way Axon works is a researcher can log into the Axon portal, we call it a researcher portal, and they can configure what they want their research study application to be. So they simply type it in, and when they're ready, they can deploy that solution through the cloud and onto a participant device using a participant application. That participant can then run tasks, do surveys, connect that phone to a device like an Apple Watch to start collecting heart rate data, stuff like that, and start using the application. And this can happen in a matter of minutes, this whole process. And of course, the beauty of Axon is all that data that's being collected gets sent right back through the cloud, right and made accessible to the researcher in the researcher portal. Synapse, again, the solution to connect doctors and their patients through care plans, is a very similar kind of scenario, where on the left-hand side we have a patient that has an app and maybe a device, and then on the right-hand side you have a physician, maybe on a tablet or a web application, who's prescribing their care plans to their patients. So in this scenario, the care plan, which might include a bunch of symptom tracking, insights, thresholds, all the different things that make up your care plan, gets pushed to the patient application, and they run through that, and of course it's all connected in the cloud for all real-time accessible data as your patient is going through their care journey. All right, I'm running out of time, so I'll make it quick. So obviously we're in this to produce better outcomes for our patients, to transform health, gain insights, and basically provide continuous care for patients around the globe. And I thank you very much for your attention today. We'll be around for questions, of course, later, and always go to medable.com if you want more information. So thank you.
So actually, I'd love to ask a question.
Questions, yes.
Being that we just spoke about the need for evidence-based care, and it seems that Medable, from what I understood, sits at the intersection between digital health and the conference that's happening next door, bio and life sciences. How are you able to then get onboarded Apple and a lot of these other major partnerships with these pharmaceutical companies, and then take that to a health system and say, hey, look, we'll make your lives easier because we're bringing digital health to research?
Yeah, I think having Apple there, being a partner of ours, and the reason why that happens is companies like us, we're really at this, at the focal point of turning things into reality. You have technology, you have ideas, but ultimately you have to deliver and make something really happen. And I think companies like Medable are really good at that. So, we can teach Apple a thing or two, and we can teach the health systems a thing or two, but ultimately it's a partnership, and we're able to really kind of turn this vision into reality, and we can do it quickly, cost effectively, and in very often clever ways.
So let's take a success story then, right? Is a lot of these healthcare systems, some of the really disruptive ones, what they've started to do is create mobile innovation teams. And I know Duke has one, but Duke is also working with you guys to do that. Can you talk more on maybe Duke or someone else of where you guys have had some success?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Depending on the journey that each institution might be in, like you said, like a Duke University is pretty advanced, and there's other places that maybe aren't as far down that journey. And there's definitely, how do you get it done type of questions regardless of how experienced you are. So like at Duke, they've deployed many of these solutions, and now it's really like, how do they do that at scale? How do they make these solutions accessible to all their researchers in a cost-effective, quick, efficient way? And so Medable can come in and help kind of provide that. If you're just starting the journey and you just want to say, well, how do we do this? What's the art of the possible? What's the reality? Then we can come in and early on, like the University of Southern California, we did a pilot with them maybe even 2 years ago now, where we launched their first research kit application and kind of helped them start the journey. So I think there's opportunities all along the way, regardless of where the institution might be in their journey.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And for everyone who doesn't know, Medable and Redox are actually throwing a Champions of Digital Health happy hour tonight. So feel free to find, Corey's here from Redox, Mark is here from Medable, Greg is around somewhere, and then Q will be here as well, and Sanem. So we're all gonna be hosting a Champions of Health, Digital Health happy hour. Thank you, Mark.
Hey, thank you.
So I think next up is Sanem is the Chief Experience Officer. And as healthcare, one of the things that I looked at when I first came across this company is as healthcare becomes more and more consumerized, a lot of patients are now having the options to choose their hospitals and figure out where to go. And then now also with value-based care, there's an importance of patient surveys that lead to reimbursement. So I'll let Sanem take it from there.
Thank you very much, Tahak. Can everyone hear me?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I'm not a professor. I'm an alum from UT, so orange is my blood. My PhD is from UT. It's even worse. Well, hello, everybody. I am Sanem Güney. I am the founder and Chief Experience Officer of Narrative DX. Narrative DX is the AI platform for patient experience. And what we do at Narrative DX goes back to the concept behind what we do, goes back to my doctoral work actually at UT Austin, which was in organization science and which focused on the significance of learning from narrative data that reflect people's experiences from their own accounts, in order to understand and solve complex problems in complex organizations. 4 years ago, almost 4.5, I met my co-founder, Kyle Robertson. Kyle is a computer engineer who became an IP lawyer. That quite didn't cut it for him either, so he started a company called iCare. It was the first mobile app for the crowdfunding of donations into charitable organizations. And he was selling that company and looking for an interesting, challenging problem. And I told him this idea that I had and asked him if he could build a software platform around this idea. And he paused for a minute or so and said, yeah, I can. And we just closed our Series A this past May and are a growing team of currently 13 individuals, data scientists, linguists, software architects, customer experience, sales and marketing professionals, and we are very excited about our next phase of growth. So let me tell you a little bit about why what we do at Narrative DX is so critical in the current healthcare landscape. Unhappy patients have become very, very expensive for hospitals. A 2016 study by Accenture showed that hospitals providing superior patient experience bring in 50% more revenue than their peers. And this is based on higher scores from patient satisfaction surveys called HCAHPS surveys. And these surveys are mandated by the government. And what happens is CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, has begun to cut their reimbursements to providers, to hospitals, beginning in 2013, and in 2017 that cut across the industry went up to about 2%, amounting to $1.8 billion across the industry. So hospitals are investing millions of dollars in administering and reporting results from these HCAHPS surveys based on the value-based purchasing program and the requirements for their reimbursements. But surveys alone cannot tell providers why their patients are happy or unhappy about their experiences. And that's why we built Narrative DX. Using our technology, providers can learn from their patients' comments and determine what specific actions to take in order to continuously improve their experiences, their patients' experiences. Our proprietary natural language processing and machine learning technology turns what used to be hard to process soft data into actionable insights. And armed with these insights, providers can actually take targeted improvement actions. Let me tell you a little bit about how we do this. We pull from multiple sources of patient experience data. And as you can imagine, different patient populations are vocal about their experiences in different venues. Older patients tend to fill out more of those paper and pencil surveys, and younger patients are more vocal on social media. We pull from distinct sources of patient experience data, from point of care or post-discharge surveys, from rounding, from grievance letters, and then from social media and doctor review sites. We bring all of this together and aggregate themes out of these comments into specific categories based on our proprietary ontology. Our technology provides the capability to identify key staff, clinicians, or units involved in care experiences. Again, the important point here is for providers and hospitals and administrators to be able to zoom in on what's actually going on in care settings so they can take targeted improvement actions to provide better experiences. And we talked about the significance of working with an evidence basis in healthcare. They can build a robust evidence basis from what used to be anecdotal data from patients' comments. All right. We also provide the capability, again, talking about the importance of providing evidence in order to show what you need to do. We provide the capability to drill down into specific comments and show which comments add up to key trends out of patients' experiences. Customers, early adopters, have been critical for us to get to where we are today, as you can imagine. And one of our early implementations was at the NYU Rusk Rehabilitation Center. Our client there, Jeffrey Hall, the department head at the time, used our analysis to plan his performance reviews in recognition of his physicians. And he was also very much a fan of being able to take close to real-time service recovery actions based on what they learned from our analysis of their patients' comments. So ChristianaCare Health System is the largest hospital network in Delaware with about 1,000 beds. We work with Sean Smith, their Chief Experience Officer of the system there. And Sean has been able to pull from multiple streams, which used to be siloed streams of patient experience data across the system, from surveys to social media, using our technology. And Sean will tell you how much staff time he saves from data analytics that he can reallocate to taking improvement actions on the ground. And now he's able to see a full picture of his patients' experiences based on the analysis that we provide to ChristianaCare. What our customers love most about what we do is finding difficult to detect but simple and practical solutions to persistent problems and persistent low scores in patient satisfaction. For example, we come up with solutions for our clients such as stack your units with more blankets. It turns out when we did an analysis for one of our clients, on cold nights, the nurses on the units ran out of blankets. And when the patients weren't able to get the blankets they wanted, they weren't pleased. When they went home and got the patient satisfaction survey, they looked at the survey. There was no box to check for the experience. When I asked for a blanket, I didn't get one. And when they saw the question on nurse listening, they gave low scores in their response to that question. The low scores in nurse listening had really nothing to do with the interpersonal interactions of the nurses. It was because the nurses were running out of blankets. Another client found out that patients liked it very much and gave high scores for doctor explanation when doctors asked a lot of questions and then used the answers to explain the health situation back to the patient. So they started implementing this as a best practice in their physician training after this finding. We helped another client find out that their newly installed phone navigation system wasn't really working well at all for their elderly patients. One of our clients, acting on the suggestions that we provided out of our analysis, was able to bring in, and this is a client in a large urban setting, mind you, bring in $50 million more in new referral revenue in a year. So it's not trivial stuff. It's very important that we provide the full landscape, as I've been saying to our customers, not only to maximize their reimbursements, but to manage their reputation online and in their communities, because these days 60% of patients look up online reviews before they choose a provider. Besides partnering with provider organizations, we now partner with technology vendors and consultancy firms through a NarrativeDX embedded tab in their platforms or via APIs. For example, if you are an electronic survey vendor and you do quick surveys in care settings, which is different from HCAHPS surveys, by the way, we pull from your surveys and the comments come directly into our platform, so you become able to provide the capability for real-time analysis of comments from your surveys. When we first started NarrativeDX, HCAHPS surveys, these government-mandated surveys, was the primary concern for patient experience officers. HCAHPS is still important, reimbursements are still important, but research now shows that Yelp reviews actually provide a much better perspective into patient experience than HCAHPS surveys. And we always knew this difference between surveys and comment data as data. That's why we started NarrativeDX. When you conduct surveys, you can only find answers to questions that you know to ask. When you analyze comment data, you can find answers to questions you did not know to ask. That's why our clients like what we are able to provide to them to give the full landscape of their patient experience for them to take targeted actions for improvement from their patients' perspectives. Well, we are thrilled to be part of growing this patient experience movement. We are thrilled to provide the leading data analytics solution to revolutionize the way the healthcare industry will act on patient feedback. Knowing what really matters to patients will amplify patient voices and will make patient-centered care real at the end of the day. It's important to know the difference whether when patients complain about meals, the issue is about the temperature or the taste of the meal, or when they complain about noise during night shift, the root cause of the noise is coming from the staff or other patients. So being armed with these actionable insights, our clients do take practical, simple, effective solutions to persistent problems in their patient experiences for continuous improvement. Thank you very much for your time. I will be delighted to take more questions.
So I actually have a question. Recently, last week actually, I was at Stanford and talking about some of our portfolio companies. And the first question I got asked was by a student, by a medical student. He's like, is every complaint they get about food, what's the percentage of, I guess, negative complaints and negative feedback that you get about hospitals, and how do you really send that back to hospitals?
Well, there is this conception, and I'm not going to say it is misconception, but it is not true that all the comments are negative. When you get comments, especially people think on social media, when people are vocal about their experiences, it's about negative experiences. That doesn't seem to be the case. There's actually quite a good balance about positive feedback and negative feedback across the board. But nobody likes the food in hospitals, so most comments about the food are negative, I hate to say, and specifically about dark and soggy green beans. That's actually a subcategory now in our ontology because so many comments have come up to the surface about that particular issue.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Oh, actually, if we...
Yes.
So do you factor in the fact that most people only write when they complain and not when they say good things?
Well, that's the thing. In some regions of the country, that is true. Hate to say, Northeasterners complain more than the West Coast, kind West Coast people and the kind Texans. But that's really regional more than anything about the medium that you're writing in or about really the experience itself.
Thank you, Sanem. Next up, we'd like to we can get a round of applause for Sanem. Thank you, Sanem. Next up, I'd like to invite Q Harrison Terry, the Chief Marketing Officer of Redox, who's also recently named by LinkedIn as one of the top voices in technology, and also as a 40 under 40 candidate in Madison, Wisconsin as well. So Q is a former entrepreneur who recently entered the digital health space and is already, Redox has made a name for itself, and they're one of our more successful companies, I would say, as they just closed a round of $10 million Series B funding. So I'll let you go ahead and take it.
Well, thank you, Taha. I appreciate the intro. To everyone here, I'm Q Harrison Terry. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Redox, but I just want to make sure everyone's awake and the coffee actually works. So if you could raise your hand if you're familiar with the interoperability crisis we're facing in healthcare today. Wow. I have a great news for everyone here. Redox is the solution to interoperability. At Redox, we've built the platform to exchange healthcare data seamlessly and effortlessly. So let me explain. The challenge that most new applications face, such as Narrative DX and Medable, is they are built in the cloud. And most EHR systems are on-premise in the basements of hospitals nationwide. So when they want to talk to each other, they have trouble doing so because the application has to build a point-to-point integration between each EHR, and it's not only time-consuming, it's very expensive and it's inefficient. And that's where Redox can help. At Redox, we centralize these efforts. We translate and transmit health data between legacy EHRs and our applications through the use of our API. App developers can securely connect to Redox in a matter of minutes, and we have developer tools that allow them to build an integration strategy that's not only cost-effective, but it's scalable. So they can focus on building the great software that they are bringing to healthcare on whatever stack they have and love. And through Redox, developers can receive the data they need consistently through our standardized JSON data model. So they don't actually need to understand the ins and outs of HL7 or how data is stored in the EHR. They can just connect to our Redox engine once via our API, and they can integrate everywhere. And developers love the consistency with Redox and the ability to easily exchange healthcare data that has historically been difficult to access. We help health systems by allowing them to choose from some of the best-in-class digital health applications. So they can choose the best tool for the job and ensure that it works with their EHR system and that their patient data is secure. We are the integration experts. We help the application at each step of the way, from the initial project scoping to going live and when your application is actually in the wild. So for developers, this allows them to develop and innovate, not worry about maintaining connections. But for health systems, this reduces the workload from their interface team. So they can adopt digital health technology quicker and not necessarily rely on their in-house team to set up point-to-point connections between their application and between their EHR and your application. At Redox, we are passionate about solving this interoperability crisis. For one, we've decided to take this networked approach. The more applications and health systems that connect to our network, the more efficient our network becomes. And the more quickly this digital health technology is adopted within the space. Currently, Redox has the largest ecosystem of digital health applications. We have more than 3,500 developers building on top of our API. We've integrated more than 500 applications, and we're working with over 100 health systems and over 30 different EHR vendors. If you'd like to learn more about Redox, please visit us in the exhibit hall. Our booth number is 437, and we're throwing a party tonight. I think Taha already mentioned that with Medable, so please stop by our booth and you can find out more about that as well. Thank you.